Let's go to the teams that we were spot on about. And fellas, let's start with the two teams in the state of Florida. And we'll start with the Panthers. Stanley Cup final last year, clearly, this was not a one-off. Let's talk about the Panthers.
Yeah, and in the preseason, we kind of talked about this team, I think, right away, saying that they're going to struggle early on because they're missing their two best defenders. Well, they didn't. They didn't struggle. This team is persistent. They prevail always because it's just everyone's bought in, and it's team defense on the Florida Panthers. And it's pretty impressive to watch the amount of chances they limit, the amount of chances they produce, and the least expected goals against, especially at, I think, 5-on-5. Like, the team is built very well, and they're built like a playoff team, and expect them to be good again in the playoffs. Bob has been good, and that also helps when you're playing great team defense, just like the Boston Bruins. And the thing about these guys is they're absolute shitheads. And that makes them draw the third most penalties against in the league, and they are it's bringing them success.
Yeah, this is like the prototype now for how you want to build a cup contending team, because not only are they pricks to play against, and there's a long history of teams needing pricks, but their best players are also pricks in Matthew Tkachuk and even Barkov is chippy at times. Like, not that he's a penalty guy, but he's hard to play against. He's strong. Like, that's,
not a star, not their best guy, but as voted by the player poll, the number one guy they want to punch in the face is Nick Cousins. So
yes, the point is, like, they're built like a prototypical cup team because they're hard to play against and they're so deep. Like, we've seen this year, some players taking steps back in their production. Matthew Tkachuk, I don't know if he'll ever be another 120-point player again. Like, maybe he will, but if he's not, that's okay, because they have Sam Reinhart, who might score 60 goals this season. Same with a guy like Brandon Montour, had an incredible year last year. And this year, after coming back from injury, he's been just okay. But they picked up Oliver Ekman-Larsson, and they've played him in favorable situations, and he's been incredible. So it's up and down the lineup, next man up mentality, and that is exactly what you need in a cup team. And it even stems as far as goaltending too. We saw last year Bobrovsky was dog shit in the regular season, and Alex Lyon saved their season only for Bobrovsky to take over the starting role in the playoffs again and play absolutely lights out and almost win the Conn Smythe. And then this year, Bobrovsky's been incredible, but Stolarz backing him up has been pretty good as well. So it's like, it's next man up for this team, up and down the lineup. They're built like a cup team through and through. And it's no surprise that they're at the top of this division, right where we predicted them to be.
Well, Alex Lyon is saving another team's playoffs hope at the moment.
Wild.
And you don't have to tell me about next man up and doing well, because my fantasy team is being carried by Reinhart and OEL.
Yes. And Case, smartly, you didn't keep Montour this year, right?
No, I held off because the injury, and I was like, man, is he even going to be that guy again? So I held off.
So that couple safe bets when it comes to the Panthers and fantasy for you there, Case.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and look, I think we kind of... There was some skepticism about Florida going into the year because of the injuries to Ekblad and to Montour. But, again, like you guys mentioned, it's been next man up. And who knew that Oliver Ekman-Larsson would just be the absolute bargoon that he's been for this team. He's been terrific. And Reinhart, again, get a guy in his prime in a contract year who can score goals, and this is what you get. Barkov too, not another guy who doesn't get enough credit, I think, and around playoff time we'll see like how he performs, because I know that's been an issue in the past, and you don't notice him as much, but he is very much a big driver for this team. And again, it just goes to show that when you get that far, get to the Stanley Cup final, you come up short with this group, come back even harder the next season. And, Tkachuk, after a slow start, has really picked it up offensively, and he is certainly the heartbeat of this team. And then you have guys like Lomberg and Stenlund and Cousins, like you guys meant, like guys who are just pricks to play against, and that's what you need to be a contending team. And they look like they haven't skipped a beat. 6-2-2 in their last 10. They've won 4 in a row.
I've got a bold take here, maybe. Barkov is the second most accurately rated player in the NHL after Connor McDavid, because he is so often rated the most underrated player in the league, to the point where he is the most accurately rated. And I
think he's overrated.
Fed up.
I think he's overrated at this part. Like at this point, that Athletic poll came out just like a week ago, and I forget whose podcast I was listening to, but it was, they asked the players, like, who's the best player in the league? And someone said, I'm shocked that Barkov wasn't number 2, because everyone always talks about, like all the players say he's the most underrated, blah, blah, blah. So put him in the top 5. But,
yeah, I'm just saying, where's that teeter point where he's no longer the most underrated player because he's always rated that?
yeah, no, like I feel like we had this conversation like 2 years ago, like 5 years ago, sure, most underrated. Now, everyone knows he's there. He's a premier two-way center in the league. Like, everyone knows that. So underrated, no. Properly rated, probably. 2 more things I wanted to say. Two more stats for you about this team. First in the league in expected goals for, and 4th in the league in expected goals against. This team is just top to bottom. Like, no matter what line is on the ice, they're comfortable with it. And if I'm the Maple Leafs, by the way, I'd much rather play a team like the Bruins in the first round than the Panthers, because my God, the Panthers look like they're poised to make another run this year.
And why I brought up the whole them being shitheads and causing penalties constantly is because they're actually 14th in the league for expected goals when it's 5-on-5.
Yeah.
So that's the difference, is when they cause chaos, they score goals.
Yeah. And we saw last year in the playoffs, and I think the year before as well, there's a trend now that there's actually more penalties called in the playoffs than in the regular season, which is contrary to popular belief, but those are the facts. So
yeah,
it could be good for this team come playoff time as well.
Absolutely. Paul Maurice continues to do wonders for that Panthers team, that's for sure.